He's got to be the last person you want your team when you're chasing points.
A little dodgy call where they should have gone to video ref there, end up costing the game.
If that was a forward pass, I'll bungee jump with no rope.
You basically can only beat who you have in front of you, so yeah. I think that's
and they're doing that, so good luck to them.
Crowd is ready, players are ready, referee says go.
Bulldogs in 2012, there was no score in the whole second half.
Yeah, we're used to seeing that kind of 12-6 score line in the big final, but I think the rule change this year has freed up the game, and it makes it better viewing, I think, which I didn't expect there to be that many points as there was, but it lived up to the hype, and great weekend of footy, and I expect the same this weekend.
But I don't mind a strong attacking football, as long as there's not too much focus at the moment. I think at the moment there's too much emphasis on attack and not enough on defence. So I think it's probably about a 60-40 split if I was to pinpoint it, because if you give a six again penalty on the third tackle, then you're basically defending 9 sets in a row on your line, which can be quite difficult. And I think we saw that in the Melbourne Parramatta game, which we'll get into, where I think Moses gave a third tackle 6 again, and in that same set they ran the field and scored. So it can be pretty difficult for teams to defend.
Well, barring Newcastle and you'd probably say Cronulla, the defence, the attack has warranted tries. Like, the defence hasn't been that bad. It's just been scintillating rugby league, if you will. And in the Canberra start against Cronulla was pretty dismal defence, but they sharpened up that area and completed the game pretty comprehensively. But yeah, I think it's not so much bad defence. I think just the attack has just really improved with the new rule.
Yeah, and also I see the Rabbitohs and Newcastle game, because it was about 38 degrees that day, so I don't blame the players not being able to defend.
It wasn't that hot, was it?
Well, you were at the game, weren't you?
Well, I was up in the corporate, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you've got the bloody air conditioning. You're not on the field. It was quite a hot day.
Yeah, but I doubt. Yeah, well, I have friends down the bottom with the plebs, the unwashed.
Jesus.
And in the far side of the ground where the sun was belting down on them, and he said it was the hottest part of Australia, which I think he was exaggerating, but it was quite warm down there.
I have been on some of those games early in the season when it does become quite hot, and I think it was Tigers and St George, and I was getting heat stroke from that game. I just couldn't wait for it to be over, even though the Dragons ended up winning, so I went home pretty happy. But yeah, that game was awful to watch just because of that heat, and I'd hate to be a player in that.
The players wouldn't have been accustomed to that kind of conditions this year. We're playing late into the season, where on Sunday would have been actually the grand final, but it's the first week of finals, and they're playing in the day, and yeah, it wouldn't have been acclimatised to 35, 30 degree heat.
Yeah, well, it's only going to get hotter, but the thing is, that was the last day game of the season, so the grand final will be at 7 o'clock at night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Which
I don't mind as a time slot, which is interesting in daylight savings, because that technically is 6 o'clock. It pushes forward.
It just occurred to me that grand final, there won't be a public holiday the following day.
Yeah, but that's fine. You don't need a public holiday. It'll feel weird.
You got to recover.
Well, I mean, in Queensland, it's not a public holiday.
We're just so used. We're just so used to having one after the grand final used to associate with a long weekend, and now it's back to work on Monday, which is gonna suck. There'll be a few sickies that day, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For the winning team.
Yeah, if you're a supporter, you might as well chuck a sickie. I mean, you've got nothing to lose. But yeah, it is.
Good job.
Yeah, but nothing's more important than winning a grand final in your life. You know, how often does that happen?
We said it was more important than women last week. This week it's more important than your job. What's next week going to be?
So it goes basically rugby league, the NRL point of difference, then it goes women, and then your job. So
women had your job. I'm surprised you went that way.
Oh, you'd say
no, I wouldn't, but I'm just shocked that you did.
That's a toss-up, I think, for that one. It depends. You technically need a job for women, so you actually need the job to impress. So maybe a job that actually does need to.
I think it should, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough. On to the footy. So Storm Roosters. What are your thoughts on that game? Kind of, the result was not the way we thought it was, but the way the bookies saw it. But yeah, like we said earlier in the week, the last week's episode, the Roosters, they weren't going to go down without a fight. But gee, I was impressed with Penrith, and that's the side of the test that I needed to see. I know I've been running them off all year and saying they're not up to it, but to beat Roosters in a big game like that and to be tested and to come from behind, I think really showed why they're the premiership favourites.
Well, you said that Roosters would actually win, and we knew this was going to be a flip of the coin. And at the end of the day, there was a point in it.
No, I'm not shocked.
But in saying that, Roosters started so well, and they looked like they were going to do a clean sweep. But Panthers were just so professional, and they exactly as you mentioned, they showed why they're the premiership favourites and why they are the minor premiership. They won the minor premiership. They just had such a cool head, and they hit back so well. And I mentioned last week that Luai had to be their key man, and he actually was their key man. He was fantastic. That ball that he did to Crichton, and I think it set up the Cleary try. It was fantastic.
Yeah, Cleary got all the headlines for the 3 tries, but it was all Luai setting them up. So we were hitting the nail on the head with that one.
But in saying that, I think Penrith played really smart. I noticed they were targeting Flanagan and a bit of Keary in defence, so they were getting Liam Martin to get one-on-one with Keary and just tire those halves so that their decision makers weren't making the best decisions when they came to those attacking opportunities.
Yeah.
I think their game plan was second to none. The only thing I could fault with Penrith was Naden in defence.
Yeah.
I just think he got caught out a couple of times.
I agree. I think he was a bit of a weak link. And if you've got Dean Farway or Dean Ware, whatever you want to say his name.
I used to call him Ware.
He's on the extended bench, so you can easily bring him in. But the only issue with that, he hasn't played for the back half of the year. But Naden's done well this year. He deserves his spot. But yeah, he did get found out a couple of times by the Roosters.
But also, they've got the week off now after that win.
Huge advantage.
And at the end of the day, so that late try by Roosters ended up making it look closer than it actually was. And that was just a stupidity from Naden that led to that try. But Penrith were definitely the far better side throughout the whole game. But it's not to say that Roosters were bad. They now need to face Raiders, but they will have Jake Friend and Sonny Bill back, won't they?
Yeah.
So that's 2 huge inclusions. I think Jake Friend will be huge for them. Not so much Sonny Bill because he hasn't been that impactful from the games he's played, but he will add a new dimension, at least coming off the bench there.
Well, we said last week that the way they lost Friend, so they had to play 2 hookers. So they had Lussick and then Lamb on the bench. But Lamb actually was ruled out, and they brought in Orbison, which is kind of what we said on the pod. But Orbison at hooker, he's not a hooker obviously, and it was obvious in the game. There was a few passes behind players. He didn't know what the play was on.
And he just looked a bit
slow.
Yeah, he looks really slow. I was about to say, really out of dummy half, and there's definitely, I think in that experienced game, in a game as like finals, you need an experienced player like Jake Friend to just get them over. Well, he's had close to 10 to 11 years of experience, and he's led them to 3 grand finals and 4 grand finals and 3 premierships, I should say. So
we also said last week the winner of that game would win the premiership. Well, that's what I said. I think that rings true still. I mean, Penrith will have to. They got a way easier side of the draw now. They'll have a week off and they'll play Parramatta or South Sydney, which is a lot easier than what's going to happen on the other side of the draw in Roosters, Raiders, Storm.
But you've got to remember that South Sydney are red hot form, and at the same time, Parramatta are the only team to beat Penrith. So are Parramatta one of those teams who can be a bogey team for Penrith? And also, we should mention that Kikau got suspended in that game against Roosters. So it'll be interesting to see how they go without him. He is a huge loss.
He is, yeah.
Who will they bring in? Hetherington?
Yeah, Kate will start, and then
probably
Hetherington on the bench.
Yeah, I think so. So Hetherington, I mean, he's lost no game time at Warriors because he's kind of been on that loan deal. So that's one of those things where it's been a benefit for a player to go on loan, and that was a really stroke of genius there because Hetherington probably wasn't going to get too much game time at Penrith, and at Warriors, I think he added a new dimension to his experience and just getting more match fitness.
Yeah. Well, everyone's saying Kikau can be replaced. You got Kurt Catewell, but
I don't think he can be replaced. He's one of their best players.
Yeah, they lose so much attack without Kikau. He's one of their massive weapons. They target to in the air, short balls, cut long balls. He's just their go-to man when they're attacking the line. He scored He's probably the leading try scorer for a second rower. He'd be up there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've seen so many so many times this year where he's just gotten the ball 1-on-1 against a weak defender and just absolutely overpowered them. He reminds me of what Tom Lolo was a couple of years back when he was at his peak at Cowboys.
Look, if you're a defender, I'm telling you, you're breathing a sigh of relief knowing that you're coming up against Capewell rather than Kickow.
But Capewell's nothing to say.
No, but you'd definitely rather him than Kickow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. He's a big loss, and I'm actually surprised. Would you think that was worthy of suspension?
I actually haven't seen the replay. I saw it live, and I didn't think much of it, depending on his carryover, and obviously he had some carryover, which resulted in suspension. But it's an age-old debate whether you should miss finals for something that happens earlier in the year with the carryover points. I heard Girdler say on Triple M during the week that there should be a clean slate for finals, which I think is not a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe that's difficult.
Just so
you can just be a grub all season and then get away with it in finals. Is that what you're saying? I think
you get punished during the game. So if you do something in round 10. And you get carryover points. In round 20, if you do it again,
yeah, but I think this was going to get a week either way, was it not?
Well, I think it was. The ended up being I think it was like a 120 carryover.
Okay,
I don't know,
but I probably thought it was worthy of a week. Like if this was a normal round game, he definitely would have got, if not more. And
yeah,
I think he's lucky you only get a week. I know at the end of the day it wasn't that bad of a tackle, but there was a lifting motion, and they're trying to rub those kind of tackles out of the game. And if you kind of set a precedent where that doesn't get suspended, then
it's going to come in the game.
Yeah, exactly. In round 2 of the 2021 season, someone does a similar tackle and then doesn't get suspended. I think it's fair, but it is unfair. It is unfair from the perspective of him not being able to play, but it is fair in the terms of consistency moving forward for the NRL.
Yeah, and I'm happy if the tackle warrants a week regardless of carryover. But if carryover is the reason he's not playing, then it's like if you do a little thing during the season which doesn't get suspended, but it adds on to your carryover points.
Well, that happened to Smith.
And that's I don't know if that's the way we should go, but that opens up a whole can of worms. I just hate seeing players miss big games for little incidents.
Look, if that was the grand final, my heart would go out to him because he's been one of their best players, and to miss a grand final just on a stupid tackle like that would be devastating. And you know what?
Happened to Isaac Luke on Sunny Bill. He lifting tackle, pretty similar to that one, and he got a week. He did it in the prelim.
Oh, that's right. But then you had who replaced him? It was Coruscant. That's right. Yeah, so that's just a better replacement, to be honest.
Not then, it wasn't. It was Coruscant's 5th game.
Yeah, okay, but
and Isaac Luke was in the peak of his career.
Compare Coruscant to Isaac Luke now. I think.
Oh, now, yeah, but this is.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and especially in a game like a grand final where you need an experienced player. But it's just funny how far Isaac Luke has fallen from grace. Has to be one of the worst players I've ever seen put on a number 9 starting jersey, to be honest. At least in the last 5 years.
5 years.
Who would you say in a hooker role?
5 years of it. He's only come down the last couple of years, probably 2.
No, last 2 years. But he shouldn't be getting a start on. He shouldn't even be playing first grade. He was supposed to retire.
Brisbane resigned him. The dumbest thing Brisbane ever did was get rid of McCulloch because then they just went and needed. Oh shit! We need an experienced hooker. We just let one go. Now we've got to go and get another one. It was just stupidity.
I think I remember Isaac Luke against Manly. It was Warriors and Manly, and I knew this was the end of Isaac Luke, where Warriors kicked down the full, and I think there was only about 2 minutes left, and Manly were then now attacking Warriors' line with 4 points gone. Sorry, there was 4 points down, and Manly were attacking the line to win the game. And after the Warriors kicked down the full, Isaac Luke clapped from the bench. Like, you got to be brain dead. I will never forget that.
The full?
I think he did, but it was just he's brain dead, that guy. But nonetheless, looking at the Raiders Sharks game, that was another game where it was just all attack, no defense, and Raiders are actually awful in that first half. And I think if we get that Raiders side that started that game against a full-strength Roosters side, I think Roosters will wipe the park with them. And Sharks were actually all over the Raiders at the start. They were playing really well. And it would have been interesting if Sean Johnson played that game, how that would have turned out.
And it would have been interesting if Williams didn't have that intercept.
Yeah.
Because that was a real massive momentum swing right before half time. Would have been 14. Would have been 14-0 half time?
No, it would have been 14-6, but then that made it 14-10. Yeah. But yeah, that was actually the turning point in the game. And once I saw that, I knew Raiders had it in the bag. And I think Jack Whiten has gone to a completely new level this year. I know he played good last year, but with that pairing with Jack Williams, Whiten's had the ability to focus on his running game, and he's used a lot of his experience as a centre just to take on the defence one-on-one and just barge over. And he has a really strong draw and pass game, and he was the reason why they won that game.
Could be a smoky for Dally M. You never know.
Gee, that's probably... You predicted that, didn't you?
I did.
So, yeah. No, was that the year before?
No, this year.
It was this year? No, I wounn't... Yeah, I mean, for Dally M, he would be in contention, but I just think Nathan Cleary has that in the bag with, I think, the 16 wins that Penrith had.
And he got reinstated.
With the 6 points as well.
He's home.
But, yeah, talking about Raiders, their forward pack's looking good. I know your clone, Tarpany. He's looking better every week.
He had a belter of a game, didn't he?
But he's getting better every week.
Yeah, if he gets rid of the penalties, he's disciplined. He needs work on. So if he can fix that, eradicate the knock on the penalty, then he's going to be a very, very handy player. He already is, but he's going to be even better. I
remember when Raiders signed him for about $500,000, and I thought, gee, that's a bit of a risk. But yeah, he's really proven his worth at the moment. I would love to have him in any side, I think, and I think any side would be great to have him. And Papali's another player. I was watching him on the weekend. He just looks so strong, and his legs are like tree trunks. He's thick. He's like Liam Martin. But yeah, nonetheless, Sharks bowed out. And do you think if Sean Johnson played, that they would have won that?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I'm glad Sharks are gone because they were making up the numbers, and it's fitting that they've gone in week 1, which is what they deserve, to be honest.
Well, yeah, they haven't won a game against a top 8 side all year, so. Yeah, at the end of the day, the 2 teams that deserve to be eliminated got eliminated. And that goes back to our comment at the start of the video where all the favourites won, and it was just pretty clear cut. Even though it was probably a surprise in some of those games where, I don't know if it was a surprise, but it was a 50-50 in that Penrith Roosters game where it could have gone either way. But at the end of the day, Penrith were the favourites and ended up winning. But anyway, we've got another game, Storm and Eels. This one was this is my highlight of the weekend, I think. But it is interesting, right? Melbourne actually conceded, 24 points in this game?
They've conceded a lot lately. In the back end of the regular seasons, they conceded 20-odd against the Cowboys. Yeah. They then conceded high 20s, maybe 30
22
against the Tigers. 22.
And then 30 against St George.
So there is some gaping holes in their defence. That could be their weak link, and there's no real defensive premiership defence this year, is there? You've seen sides base their game on defence, where they'll win games by only scoring 18 points. But this year, because of the new rule change and what have you, you've got to score more points than that, and defence isn't the priority, I guess.
Yeah, I still think it should be a priority, though. I mean, I don't see why just because there's a repeat set that you can't defend the line. I guess it stops kind of the people holding people down in the tackles and forcing those penalties so they can reset their team. I think it was 2013 where it was actually Roosters' tactic to actually give away early penalties when they're defending their line so they could defend. That anymore. And there was a crackdown on that one year, I think 2018, where they started giving all these penalties and getting rid of the wrestle and the tackle, and then it received enormous backlash. And I think the 6 again was a good resolve to that issue.
Speeds everything up.
But as you mentioned, there's holes all over the field. Even against
Parramatta's attack hasn't been the greatest lately, and yet they still managed to have Storm on the back foot multiple times, whether it be throughout their forward pack. They just look like they could score off a few plays back to back in a few stages throughout that game. And this game was you'll like this, Rago. This game was so good that I was out for a friend celebrating a friend's grand final. and I knew the whole team was sitting upstairs in the in this restaurant and had no TV there, but there was TVs downstairs, and they were upstairs. So I went down and sat downstairs all by myself just so I could watch the game.
That sounds a bit like me.
on my Pat Malone, just all.
Well, I mean, this is if there was a game to do that and ignore your idiot friends who had to book their party on a game's on finals night.
It would have been fine if there was a TV
there on a finals week.
Delinquents. It was a TV there. It would have been fine, but I had to go downstairs for the TV. But that's right. I didn't regret it. Put it that way. It was a magnificent game and sets up a mouth-watering match against South Sydney at Parramatta.
So Parramatta looked like a completely different side when they had Dylan Brown in the team.
Yeah.
And I know Sivo going down at the start of the game made a huge difference. So Will Smith was on the bench and he went over on that wing. And I think Jennings ended up going to wing position and then Will Smith was the centre. And I don't know if that worked out entirely well for them because it just seemed like their left edge was just getting cut up at every point. With that Addo-Carr, it just looked like he was looming for a try. I'm surprised he didn't score a hat-trick the way he was going. But there was a specific moment in the Parramatta game plan that really was their downfall. And I think Sterlo picked up on it. So Marnie kicked it from dummy half on the fourth tackle, went straight down the throat of Josh Addo-Carr. Josh Addo-Carr ran to about the 50-metre mark, got tackled, Parramatta on the back foot. And this is when it was about 18-all at this time. Melbourne then ended up doing a kick, and then it went to Ferguson. Ferguson knocked it on. Melbourne then scored. And
they scored 3 tries after that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they just never recovered after that a subtle mistake. So I think if Parramatta can learn from that mistake and go into the next game against Rabbitohs and just know that, that back three can be really deadly with Allen. Actually, not so much the other wing, but you got Allen and Johnston there. So maybe if they can keep away from those two, they might be okay. But that was a very poor decision by Marnie in that position to.
Well, from what we've seen this year, and in particular the first round finals, that the team with momentum is very hard to stop. Like if you've got momentum for a longer period, it sounds obvious, but with the new rule and the set restarts and the flow of the game constantly on the back foot, if you're done momentum, then it's so hard to stop. And that Storm showed that with 3 tries in a row. And then one little thing like that, momentum shift, game gone. So in finals, you can't afford little slip-ups like that. And the same thing happened with Newcastle and South. There was 14-0. Newcastle were attacking South line again for the 3rd time. And they knocked it on play 2. And then South went on, as we know, and scored.
Yeah, that's right. We mentioned Sivo going down. Ferguson also went down later in the game. He's okay, and he's actually playing next week, even though he probably is injured. Sivo's is gone for the rest of the season. Do you think this is going to make a big difference? They've got George Jennings replacing him.
I think it does, yeah.
Who has been playing at the Warriors. And we mentioned that it has been a stroke of genius from Penrith to put Hetherington in that lone position. George Jennings has obviously had some game time down at the Warriors, or I should say up at Central Coast. Do you think that's the right decision, or would you put Takarangi in the team and then put Jennings put Michael Jennings on the wing and then put
because then you're messing up with 2 positions, aren't you? You'd want to keep as many players in the same position as they play week in, week out, and putting Jennings to the wing is going to shuffle out the back line unnecessarily. So I think it's the right move, just replacing a winger for a winger. But it is a big loss, I think. Like I said with Kickout, if you're an opposing winger and you see Jennings on your opposite instead of Sivo, you're going to be thinking the big man above.
Yeah, but I think
much rather have Jennings and just running the ball back as well. Having Sivo, 105 kilos, and then Jennings.
But he hasn't been that impactful in the second half of the year. I think people have worked him out. All you have to do is hit him hard and he'll go down like a sack of shit.
But he's proven he can be quite damaging, and he's a great finisher. So I think it is a bit of a loss to Parramatta.
Yeah, I mean that would be really detrimental to them.
And I've seen Jennings play this year, George, and I don't think he's the worst out of all the Jennings brothers.
Worse than Robert?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's pretty ordinary.
Well, he was actually predicted to be one of the better. I think Michael was meant to be one of the best, and then they always said, the two younger brothers are going to come up and they're going to be excellent and they're going to be excel. But they never really came into their own there for whatever reason.
Well, Robert had that one good year at South, but he was just finishing off. He was just putting the ball down. He never really
Reminds me of Merritt.
did anything spectacular.
But yeah, also, what did you make of Vunivalu staying down? So Parramatta had the momentum in the back end of the game.
I hate it. My low light.
Yeah, that was poor form by Melbourne. I think they got fined $10,000.
Did they?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. So $10,000 to the club's going to, at the end of the day, be nothing. That's just a slap on the wrist.
If people say Bellamy says not tactics, or anyone says not tactics, they kid themselves because that is as blatant as it gets. And I've seen it a few times this year when the refs called time off when it hasn't been a head knock. Like, since when? I think player welfare is now it's become too much of a priority. I know we've got to respect the players and make sure they're all right, but in the heat of the battle, if you're having momentum and you're on the front foot and you have to stop all things because someone's got a little cramp or a burner, then fair income. That's just ridiculous.
I think tough titties.
Unless there's bone sticking out of the skin or their head knock, that's the only reason you stop the play.
But why even stop it? Why can't, unless if they're not in the way, just continue play until the person with the injured player gets the ball or play stops. Why do they have to pause time when the attacking team has the ball? It just killed Parramatta right there. Melbourne were on the back foot there, and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I forget the rule because you didn't see it.
It's whenever the trainer calls for it.
But it's coming way more into the game because of the head rule, which is fair enough. But for little burners and cramps like that, then it definitely should be out of the game.
But if it is the head rule, why can't they just lay there? Like, the trainer can keep them down until play stops. Unless they're in the way, which, okay, fair enough, and then stop. But then
the defending team's missing a player. But I guess, is that just unlucky? Is that what you think?
If they're in the way? No, if they're
you don't want play to stop.
I don't want play to stop
until... Which means
until
the defensive team will have a player missing in their line.
But that's it. That's just the nature. Luck. I mean, it is bad luck, you know. Sometimes in rugby league it can be a cursed game, but I guess the argument is in the grand final. I think we saw with Dugan earlier in the season where he got injured. The trainer was calling for it, and they didn't call it. So you can't have it both ways.
It reminds me of playing touch footy and you yelling out pause, stop the play, pause. That's what's happening. They're stopping the play because someone's got a little cramp.
Exactly, it's too many stoppages, and that's kind of why people like soccer and AFL, because it's just continuous play. You know, there's not too many stop and start.
You like soccer for continuous? They milk the most injury out of everyone.
Yeah, but what the play doesn't stop. Yeah. So if there is an injury, they'll blow the whistle, they'll do it, and then play goes on. Yeah. You know, but nonetheless, what would you make out of Munster being injured? So he could miss the prelim against either, who was it on the other pool? It was
Canberra or Roosters.
Canberra Roosters, that's right.
Well, I think I reckon it's more serious what Storm are making out for us to believe, because...
But he didn't look happy.
Exactly. I think you got to read into that, because he threw his mouth guard. Was it his mouth? Or something. He threw something in just anger or disappointment. And you do that because you know something's bad. Yeah. I reckon. The game was won.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's only doing it in fear that he's missing the next game. So I'm reading more into that than what a lot of people are. I think he's racing the clock, and which would be obviously a massive loss to Storm and would probably be game-changing.
Yeah, it's interesting because his game really relies on his running game, and if he can't run, then it's pretty much all.
I think it's the third one for the year on that same knee.
Yeah, that's right, and that's why I think he was so frustrated, because he knows it, and it came at the worst possible time as well, right at the end of the game when the game was won.
Yeah,
and that's going to be really detrimental. I don't think Melbourne can win the comp without him.
No
He's
way.
just that. No. And even if a 50% Munster, I know is still a great player, but I just don't think they can beat.
No one can win comp without their starting half.
Exactly.
If they do, then that's one for the ages, but I can't see it happening.
Well, that's the benefit Penrith have when they have some really young players in their halves that are probably a bit more resilient than some of the old timers. I know, yeah.
And Penrith actually have a backup. They've got Matt Burton, so if Jerome Luai did get injured, yes, it's a loss, but I think they could still recover with Matt Burton coming in. Whereas Storm, Riley Jacks. It's a massive drop in standard
Jeez.
for Storm.
That's it. I don't know why no one's going after Burton. He would be a handy pickup for any club.
Well, I'm sure he will be in the off season.
Yeah.
Either the Bulldogs or he'll be re-signed to Penrith.
Yeah, but I don't see why Penrith would need him. I guess they can use him as a backup, but I just don't see him wanting to do that and be that utility. But nonetheless, we've also got that South and Newcastle game that we alluded to. They had that Burgess distraction going into the game where he was basically, he was accused of being
many things.
He was accused of failing a drug test, and then the Rabbitohs are covering it up. He was accused of domestic violence with his partner, who was pregnant at the time. But nonetheless, we digress.
Didn't have much of an influence, did it?
Well, yeah, exactly. Newcastle, maybe in the first 10
10
minutes, where Newcastle started off so strong and it was 14 points, and then it was just so interesting to see South hit back, and there was 46 unanswered points, and then it was just such an interesting game there. It just looked like it took South a bit to kick into gear. It reminded me of that game against Roosters, where Roosters got off to that early lead, and then as soon as South got going,
South gave themselves no chance to get into the game. The first 3 sets they had 3 errors, and Newcastle scored points off the back of them. So you can't expect to win a game or do anything on a scoreboard that's your completion rate. So, and as soon as they did start completing sets, they scored points. So that's all they needed to do is just that you get rid of the discipline, get into the game, the grind of the game, and they'll score points, which is what they did. And I've given Damien Cook a bad rap on this pod multiple times. He's I'm his harshest critic, but on the weekend he was back to his damaging best as he was last year, and he had the game of his career. Not his career, his year, game of the year for Damien Cook, and he was my MVP of the round, I think. He was pivotal in South's win.
Well, yeah, he was the turning point. So right before halftime, he saw a lazy defender, ran at him. I think it was Barnett, and he just did the killer blow. So he ran through, set up. Who was it?
Cameron Murray.
Cameron Murray. Okay.
That's what he's going to do. So many times, the same position like that, where he's pinned the ears back, but then he's gotten to the fence and he's just stopped and he's lost all momentum. He's either got to put someone through or just, what I think is best, just keep on running until you get flattened. Because his speed is his greatest asset, and he can just get through little holes that not many players could. Yeah,
well, Walker's in red hot form at the moment as well, isn't he? That try he scored with Reynolds was very similar to that one he scored against Roosters.
Well, he and Reynolds were both reasonably quiet compared to what they have been the last 2 weeks. I know Walker still came away with a try assist, but I think the damage is already done by Cook and the forwards who really led the way from the front.
But Pearce was actually in the news right before the game saying if he doesn't lead them to a good win, then they'll contemplate not re-signing him.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting because he is coming to that 31 years old now. I think he is. He's been in the game for quite a bit. He hasn't really taken his game to a new level at Newcastle, which I would have liked to see him do.
I thought he was better on the weekend, but I think he's had a quiet year.
I just feel like he didn't do enough in that game, and he does go hiding quite a bit, and I think he really got caught out at Roosters. So, I mean, in 2013 when he won that premiership at Roosters, they did have such a star-studded team, and they had Maloney as his half partner, and I guess he could take a back seat in that regard.
Yeah.
But at Newcastle, he's been their focal attacking point, and he's just really been caught out, I think, and I don't rate him as one of the top players at all. If I was to name him as a halfbacks, I'd probably put him, about 6 down?
Yeah.
If you were to list all the halfbacks?
Yeah, it's probably about fair.
Yeah, so
I think they do want to get more out of Pearce, and you could say the forwards haven't aimed up, but I think that's not the case. They've got a great forward pack.
Those Saifidi brothers have been playing fantastic.
So Pearce, should have the room to work his magic. He just hasn't been in the form that we've seen him over his career, and in saying that, I think they're 5'8". That's probably, you could blame their 5'8s this year because they've had multiple injuries, so it's a bit hard for Pearce to build combinations, I think, and they went with Man on the weekend, which was the right option, but he hasn't been there the last couple of months due to injuries to the number 9s. And then it makes defense easier for the opposition team because they know you got Pearce and Ponga as your threats. You shut them down, you go a long way winning the game. And if you've got limited attacking threats on the other team, it makes it easier.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think a lot of teams have that one player they focus all their attack on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there are a few exceptions, and that's why they're the top teams. I mean, with Penrith and Melbourne, and I think Parramatta is a team that you can probably put on that list where they only have the one attacking player, and that's Gutherson. And yeah, it's interesting because they're the teams that really struggle, and they're the ones that can easily be defended against those more intelligent teams.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with how Rabbitohs played, and I can't wait to see them against Parramatta. I'm actually going to that game, so it'll be fun.
Well, I'll see you there, Rago.
Oh, you're going to be there.
I will be there.
I'll be waiting.
Where are you sitting?
I'm in the pleb seats.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Oh, yeah, I thought you would have got the box seats.
No, not at Bank West. I don't have the privilege for that. What? I'm behind the goalpost, actually. That's
I think I'm on about the 50 metre line, but I'm on the first low.
Halfway, 50 metre. You're laughing. We should swap.
I don't think so. You're the pleb here. But yeah, speaking of that game, who do you think wins that one? That's on the Saturday.
Well, let's go into the Raiders Roosters. Let's go in chronological
Okay,
order.
fair enough.
Please, my OCD. So Raiders, both these games are absolutely mouth-watering, but this one I can't split these two. Like I've been persuaded by one person to go Canberra. My brain says Roosters. I just think they've got the class to get over Canberra. I don't think that I can see way more points in Roosters than I can Canberra. But in saying that, Roosters they could be in a flat spot. They've had 2 losses in a row. Raiders are on the up, so take your pick.
I think the winner of this loses against Melbourne because it's going to be difficult whoever comes out of this to back it up. And I know Raiders had an easy game against Cronulla last week, but this one's a tough one. I can see either team winning this, and I could see why they would be winning it. So if Roosters were to lose it, it would be their fault, not them not playing to their best. If Raiders were to win this, it'd be because they bring their A game and absolutely destroy them.
Yeah.
And if there is going to be a team who does actually beat Melbourne, I'm leaning towards Raiders. I don't think it's possible for Roosters to verse Penrith, Raiders, and then Melbourne, and then go on to the grand final. I just don't. I think it would be taking too much out of them psychologically, and not to mention the loss against Rabbitohs. Yeah. So I think Roosters are going to lose this one, unfortunately. Which I mean, when I say unfortunately, they have won the last 2 years, so for their fans, they're obviously more hungry for.
It'd be good to see a new team progress. It'd be good for Raiders too. It's the big revenge game again now because of what happened in the grand final. So Raiders, it's 1-1 this year, I think. Is it 1-1 this year? Yeah, they're both 1-1. So they're decided for the year, and I hope for Raiders' sake they get that ultimate revenge and knock the Roosters out of season 2020.
This one's going to be a hellacious clash. I know.
A what?
A hellacious clash.
Oh, I like that.
What?
I haven't heard that before.
Well, I mean, they've got Jake Friend back, so that's going to be, as we mentioned, that's going to be
that's massive.
That's going to be huge for them. Look, you can't split this. And this is, when was the last time you saw Finals Week 2 that was as tight as this? These are 2 50-50 games. I know they're leaning towards South Sydney as being the favourites, but we'll get to that later.
But I think both games are pretty evenly skewed in terms of betting.
Yeah, okay.
So let me ask you this. This game, where will it be won? How will this game be won?
At this one, I think if the decision... Okay, you have to look at the decision makers. So George Williams and Jack Whiten have to be the ones making the right decisions at the right time. So if they've got a really opportune attacking position and they, make a silly mistake on the second tackle and give up possession and then Roosters immediately hit back...
I'll make them pay.
Exactly. And... I think the class of Luke Keary and Tedesco are what Roosters will have to rely on in this regard because the forward packs here are pretty evenly matched. They're both very strong. I
think Raiders might have them covered.
Do you think so?
Not based on talent, but I think based on where they're at right now, energy levels and momentum. I think Roosters pack's been steamrolled against South, and then Penrith, obviously they had a loss, but whether the forwards to blame, I don't know. But look at Canberra. Soliola's come back from a big layoff. Papali's in red-hot form. Dynamis Louis was unreal against Cronulla in both games, actually. Hudson Young on the bench, who's been probably one of their better forwards the last couple of weeks. So I think they'll have too much energy for Roosters to handle in an older pack.
Do you want me to give you a fun fact?
Yeah.
Raiders have won 70% of their games when John Bateman has been playing.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty high stat.
But look, I know where you're coming from. Raiders probably show a lot more of energy, but I think Roosters have more experience. They've got Hargraves and Cordner in their team. They've obviously got Crichton. And you compare that to the likes of, I think that they're back three. So they've got Bateman, Whitehead, and Tarpany in their forward pack. I think show a lack of experience, especially in finals games. And I think the experience of the forward pack will bring it home here in that battle. But as I mentioned,
and Tom Starling is the hooker there. It's his second finals game.
But he's been in
Jake
top
Fred.
form.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. So in that experience factor, I think Roosters have them covered in that regard. But I think this is an even split, and I think it's going to come down to the decision makers of Jack White and George Williams versus Keary, Flanagan, and even Tedesco. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting fight.
Tedesco can win on his own, can't he?
So yeah, I mean, if you give him the ball, he can make something out of nothing.
What's your tip? Can you do it?
I'm going to go Roosters. And
I thought you were going to... You talked yourself out of it. I swear you said Canberra at the start.
Yeah, look... Yeah, I think I did. Look, this is actually the most difficult one to tip. And I think... I don't know. This one's going to be tough.
You can't.
I can't decide.
I'll say Roosters, but I want Raiders to win. But I think Roosters will win.
I think the experience of Roosters will win this. And... they need to rely on Flanagan to make some really good decisions and be pinpoint in his kicks. But look, I know I was kind of leaning towards Raiders at the start, but just talking about this game makes me lean towards Roosters. But I don't know what are the odds on this one?
Roosters are $1.40. I think
$1.40.
Canberra $2.50.
Gee, there's some value there in Raiders.
Well, I think about this game, and I just think of what I've seen from the Roosters in previous games, and they've got so many points in them. Here we go. Raiders 285.
Gee.
Roosters 145.
Gee, I wouldn't expect it to be that.
Exact same for the
we
following
should
game.
also mention it is at the SCG, so there is a bit of a home ground advantage there for the one fan that shows up for the Roosters.
Yeah, the SCG.
That's that Wayne guy that has the giggity sign.
They've got a good record, the SCG. Although Canberra did topple them in the middle of the season. All right, I'll go Roosters by 4.
Yeah, I'm going to say...
I reckon it's going to be high scoring again.
I'm going to say, Roosters 1-12. And you're going to say over 40 points, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say Roosters 1-12. We move on to the Eels and the Rabbitohs game. Now, this one's another one where it's interesting. I think Rabbitohs are clear favourites in the
exact same odds
on the
as the other
bookies.
game.
Yeah, that's shocking to me because I think I know you look back to that game where it was 36-0, but that's shocking to me because I think Eels are definitely going to show
38-0.
38-0. Okay, sorry. But look, Eels against Melbourne, if they bring that game to Rabbitohs, I think they win. It's a matter of if they do bring that A game,
especially for the full 80. Both teams haven't been playing. Didn't play the full 80 last week. South did against Roosters by maybe 75 minutes. So I think if the Rabbitohs can play like they did for the 60 minutes they turned up for against Newcastle,
they need to play for 80.
They'll win. But then vice versa, if Eels were on top of Storm for maybe, I reckon, 40 minutes, half that game. There was a period in the second half for about 10-15 minutes, and there was the first 20.
Well, yeah, it was the class of Melbourne that ultimately won that game.
But South aren't the class of Melbourne, I don't think. They've got points like Melbourne, but in big moments and big games, no one's like Melbourne. South's are beatable in those big games. They could crack under pressure.
Yeah, Look, that's what I mean. I think the winner of this game will be the one who starts strongest for the first 30 minutes. So the winner at the 30-minute mark is going to be the winner, in my opinion. And if it's a draw, then, geez.
Is it a bold prediction?
My bold prediction is, yeah.
I like that little stat.
So the winner, whoever's winning at the 30-minute mark will win this. That's my bold prediction this week.
Yeah, what if it's 12-all?
If it's 12-all, I think in a tight one, I think Rabbitohs will win. Because they got the Reynolds as the goal kicker. Yeah, and they got Reynolds the field goal kicker. So
yeah.
And obviously Reynolds doesn't miss those penalty goals and general goal kicks. So I think Rabbitohs have the edge there. But I'm leaning towards Parramatta in this one if I was to pick a winner right now.
Okay.
And I know they've got Sevo out, and Ferguson probably isn't 100%. But I think Dylan Brown and Moses showed enough to get the job done. And this one's going to be another interesting. I think Parramatta probably have the forward pack beaten here. I know Rabbitohs do have a strong forward pack, but I think the likes of Gillard and Paulo, Paulo, I think he's topping the most offloads this year, but he's been fantastic. I mean, I've been highly critical of him throughout his whole career, but this year he's taken it to a whole new level, and for whatever reason.
Well, Rabbitohs have loved proving everyone wrong about their forward pack. They're constantly talked about as being a weaker pack. They're unheralded, but they keep getting the job done. And they'll have to do it again against one of the better packs in the comp. But South's bench have been awesome for them lately. Kolomatangi has been making one of the top meters off the bench, 160, 150. Mark Nichols has even been in career best form, and Liam Knight had one of his better games on the weekend. So, although on paper their pack isn't matching it with Eels,
They got those bench that come in.
They all do their job, and I wouldn't be surprised if they match it, if not better, the Eels forward pack.
But that's a good point you bring up, because if you have a good forward pack on the bench and they do a proper rotation and it feels like they're not even missing a link, then that can make a big difference, especially in the later parts.
And Eels have lost Niokore, who's been one of the better bench players, and in comes Ray Stone.
Andrew Davey hasn't been bad. I don't mind him as a player.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of him, to be honest. And Kane Evans has been good. So,
but I think, if you're going to compare the benches, I think Rabbitohs have definitely gotten them beat.
Yeah. And Eels have opted for a utility on the bench as well, which South don't really have, so that we've got an extra middle if we need it.
I think if Parramatta are going to win this game, they need to shut down Damien Cook. I mean, I know Cody Walker's in career best form, but he comes on the back of all of Damien Cook's runs.
You're right, but that all starts with the ruck. So if that's you go back to the forward pack. So if Eels are putting South on their backs, each making slow play the balls, dominant tackles, and it's so hard for Damien Cook to scamper out and catch markers napping, because they're going to be ready for him.
That's true. I think it's just a matter of markers being aware of what Cook can do, but no one's been able to defend it. Everyone's obviously aware of it, and he just outperformed himself every week. I know he hasn't been the best this year, but in the last couple of weeks, Damien Cook has brought his game to a whole new level and shown why he probably is the best hooker in Australia.
Yeah.
You have anything else to mention this week?
Well, my tip, you said the Eels. I'll go the Rabbitohs. Just based off form, really. I see too many points in South Sydney. Even if they leak a few, like they have done, like they did against Newcastle, they've got the attacking flair on both sides of the field, in the middle, to make up points. So I'm gonna go South, but the Bankwest crowd that's a couple of points away, I think.
Yeah, that's actually a big influencer as well. But it's not a full house, because we're can only have the 50%. But I know what you mean. That's going to be a big difference maker, because they will get some of those 50-50 calls to go their way just because of crowd reactions. And
well, you'll be going to South Sydney, won't you? Because you'll be going with your brother. Are you going with your brother?
Yeah, both brothers. But
family affair, is it? Everyone's going?
Well, right before his wedding. So his wedding's on the day after. But I'm going to have to go for Rabbitohs on the inside, because...
So your brother, who's a mad Eels fan for the listeners, could see his Eels get knocked out and then get married the following day.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a sad day for him.
It's going to be a sad weekend.
But that's the thing. If they get the win, he'll be too happy. It'll be happiness overload. And it'll make you sick. I don't want to see him that happy.
He might say goodbye to his football team and say goodbye to his life after the next day.
Jesus.
No, I don't mean that. I mean because he's getting married.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I thought he was going to commit suicide.
No, he's not going to take his own life.
So what was your bold prediction then for this week?
Good question.
Do you think Rabbitohs in a close one?
Oh, that's not really bold, is it? They're $1.40. It's hard to say a bold prediction on with 2 games.
Okay, well, is it going to be 13 plus for the Rabbitohs then?
No, it'll be both games will be 1-12. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. That's pretty bold. Well, that's all we have time for this week. I can't wait to watch the games. Actually, maybe we should mention the Origin inclusion. So we've got Clemmer and Graham being admitted.
I'm so shocked by that, to be honest
I'm
with you.
shocked by Graham. I'm not shocked by Clemmer.
Really? I'm shocked. I'd be more shocked.
Clemmer hasn't been. Well, Graham's been fantastic this year. He's been
You're off your head.
Are you kidding me?
No, Graham hasn't been that good.
He's been fantastic. He's been the reason why they've scored a lot of their tries. He's got like 11 or 12 tries this year, and he's been really impactful in terms of making meters.
Mm.
I
want both of them in the team, but I'm more shocked with Clemmer because he's been there so many, as Graham has been there, done that. They're both made for Origin, and Clemmer's stats, he's the second highest offloader in the comp behind Junior Paulo, and he makes like 130, 140.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Origin's a different game. You can't always make offloads in the same environment.
Yeah, but he's done it. He's like he.
So would you have? Okay, so brought in Saifidi.
One of the first picks. He's ahead of Saifidi. So you're going to spare me.
You think so?
Yes.
I wonder why they haven't put Clemmer in.
Freddie doesn't like him because he dropped him. He didn't pick him for the third game last year. So there's something there. But Graham, I am shocked by that one as well because, as you mentioned, he has, by all reports, been good for the Sharks. But maybe they just opted for some fresh meat.
Well, Saifidi,
Madison.
Oh yeah, they've got Madison in as well.
Oh, I'm sure he won't get picked yet, but I'm assuming that's where they'll go instead. Angus Crichton, he played last year as well. But
they've got back rows coming out of their ears. It's funny how the tide have changed, and Ponga's not going to play this year either. So
no, it just gets worse and worse.
He might play.
I
think if he has a surgery. I don't know if he's been playing injured for the last 3 weeks. Why wouldn't he just continue playing injured for Origin? It'd be stupid not to. I guess it does irreversible damage if it keeps getting injured.
Club might have a say. And if you aren't fit to play and you do have an injury, then it's irresponsible.
Yeah.
To play Origin.
Well, what do you think about Lomax coming in? It doesn't necessarily mean he'll play, but you mentioned that he was going to be the centre that would replace Tobrojevic. Yeah,
I could always see him getting into the squad, which is great for him. But yeah, if it means he will play, I don't know. They've got it'll be out of Lomax, Campbell Graham, Stephen Crichton, and even.
Why do you keep saying Campbell Graham?
He'll be in the squad, mate.
You really think so?
Yeah, he will be.
But he's
Freddie loves him. Freddie's come out and said he's been his bolter.
But he's
and that was like 3 months ago.
But he's partnered with Johnston, isn't he?
No, so Johnston's on the left and Graham's on the right, which again plays into Campbell Graham's position because they're missing a right centre right now for New South Wales.
But that's Lomax as well.
Yeah. So and Crichton's on the left, and so is Bradman Best. So maybe they'll go Graham.
I think Bradman Best is too green.
I think they'll go Gutho, to be honest. But I think Graham and Gutho will both be in the squad.
Gutherson... Yeah, because I wanted to put Kodrick at centre and then put Gutherson on the wing. I wonder if that's a thing they can do.
Yeah.
I guess that would be okay. And then put Wine on the other centre.
Yeah.
And then put... Who else would you have on the other wing? Addo-Carr. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's too many options here at the moment.
But me saying Campbell Graham should be in the squad does not mean that he's better than Crichton and Bradman Best because they're looking for a right centre. Campbell Graham is a right centre, so it would make sense.
Are you only justifying Lasue so he doesn't back us out in the next video?
Well, if he would be he'd be up. Like I reckon he's equal with Lomax on who do you pick. Like I couldn't split either of them.
I don't like Lomax because he makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, yes, he will do something spectacular, but for Origin, I think
they'll go Gutho.
Look, if you're going to have an Origin moment, you would look at Lomax. If you want a steady and safe player, I think go with Graham.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
And but even saying that, I don't know if Graham is a legitimate contender. If you got Crichton and even Kodrick is another option in Gutherson, so they've got a lot of options there. So and it is a squad of 27, so it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. And if New South Wales are winning 2-0, then maybe they can experiment and do some weird things there. So It's interesting. It's funny because Fiedler's not a good coach, but he's got such a fantastic team, and he's going to get all this credit. It reminds me of Mal Meninga. He's not really that good of a coach, and he's had such a star-studded team, and conveniently he retired right when it was time.
Going pear-shaped.
Yeah, and also Bennett actually comes in for Queensland as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, the big boost for Queensland.
Yeah, because he knows how to get the best out of every player.
Yeah. So although people are writing off Queensland, you can never write off a Bennett coach side, but the team is looking pretty slim. I think it's just been announced, actually.
What's this?
Queensland side.
Oh, has it? All right, let's have a look. All right, it's like Christmas. It's like opening a new present. It's exciting.
Except this present is like coal. It's like getting coal from Santa. What a shocking team this looks like from the Queensland Maroons.
Wait, what's that? What's that mean? That you get a deodorant pack or something?
Yeah. But I appreciate that now because I don't have to buy it myself.
But
yeah, as a kid.
What do you mean? Why can't you get... No, I hate getting like socks and underwear and clothes. I don't like getting clothes for Christmas. Actually, you know what? Clothes I don't mind because at least you know how expensive it is now. But as a kid, yeah. It's like opening clothes for Christmas.
Yeah, as a kid.
Yes.
Yeah, where's the toys?
But look, this one smells like shit this side. We've got Josh Kerr on the side, which I have no idea why he made it. Are they that lackluster for forwards? I know these are all the teams that haven't made.
They've been eliminated.
Yeah, been eliminated. So they've got Heimel Hunt and Edric Lee and Sammy as their outside backs.
Jeez, Philip Sammy.
Well, actually, no. All these teams here are these Queensland teams that haven't made the 8. No Queensland team has actually made the 8. So
there's Newcastle there, you spud.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, the majority of Queensland's players do come from the Queensland teams, and that is Cowboys, Titans, and Brisbane. And this is the selection here. And you got a couple of people from Newcastle as well, and St George. But this is bizarre. You've got Xavier Coates in the team. Holmes is fair enough, but he is
Philip
suspended.
Sammy. He barely makes the Titans starting 13.
Yeah,
Edric Lee, I can understand. He should have been picked last year. He's a good player.
No, I don't rate him. To be honest, I'd pick Sammy up. Sammy's actually been decent the last couple of weeks. But AJ Brimson, I think, is a good in.
Yeah, he'll probably play fullback with Ponga out. But, no, that makes a pretty grim reading.
Jared Wallace isn't in?
Shit, yeah.
I guess he hasn't really been playing first grade, but still.
Josh Kerr.
Yeah, I'd put...
And where's... Queensland going about how
I don't even know Josh Kerr's a Queensland.
How slim pickings their centres are, yet they haven't picked Moses Mbai, who's been there the last couple of years.
Yeah, but
I know he's ordinary, but God, he's got to at least make a run for this team, doesn't he?
Yeah, I guess maybe what they're thinking is putting Jake Friend as their starting hooker and then putting Ben Hunt as the utility, as opposed to putting Mbai on the bench and having him as a utility. But yeah, what would you do as the half?
So out of these players, who will actually play? So I think Arrow will play, Brimson will play, Fodawaker will play, Edric Lee I think will be on the wing. Holmes, if he's fit, will play. Hess will play. Carrigan will play. Hunt will play, and Cherry Evans will play.
And you don't think Harry Grant's going to make it?
And then Harry Grant,
I think
Sammy,
he probably won't.
Hunt, Coates, and Kerr might not make it.
I think Sammy probably will sneak in as a centre spot because Holmes isn't going to play the first game. So you need to replace someone.
So you'll have, say Ponga doesn't play, you have Brimson, a guy on one wing.
Yeah.
And Edric Lee on another wing.
Yeah, and then who you have as the centres? You got slim pickings because you got no Morgan and you've got no
Brenko Lee.
Oh, see, that's what I mean. You have to put Sammy there.
Who's left now that could play in the anyone in the teams now?
Not that I can think of.
No. Just Gagai and Brenko Lee if they pick him.
And this is someone that we can't really think of, which is interesting. To be honest, I would have been tempted to put AJ Brimson at centre if Ponga could play, but obviously
if Ponga plays, it's a big loss.
But that makes me think. Play. That makes me think that Sammy and Heimel Hunt are going to play if Valentine Holmes can't play, which he can't for the first week. Yeah,
well, there's only Dane Gagai is the only one that will be picked in the back line that's playing right now.
Yeah.
So this is all they've got.
Can Vunivalu play? No.
No, he's a Fijian.
I'm sure they can squeeze some rule in. But this is definitely the worst Queensland side that we've seen, at least
in our existence.
Yeah, I think maybe even 2003, I think they were on the back end of things, but that's when they started coming good, around 2004, 2005.
Mm.
But yeah, this is definitely the weakest that we've seen in the last 15 years, easy.
Their halves are their shining light.
Well, a full-strength halves combination is definitely... Maybe if they can get Cameron Smith in, but surely he won't go on a stinking shit.
Stinking or sinking?
Oh, both.
Yeah, it looks an uphill battle for Queensland, but you can never write off a great team that Queensland are. So time will tell, but I think it's the New South Wales series to lose, to be honest.
What do you make of Grant being picked? He won't really play, will he? He would just be a spare. I think it's more of a thing of a grooming.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because he's the future. And just on that Mbai thing, I think he must be injured. I think he's injured. We've just found out.
Oh, he is injured? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, well, that makes sense because he wasn't playing for Tigers towards the end there, so
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. And he would have been in definitely on just the fact that he's got so much diversity in where he can play.
Yeah.
Anyway, that wraps up our video. Nearly an hour today, which was exciting. This is the first time we've...
the finals does that to you.
Well,
Different ball game finals.
You know, we talk about news and all that, and we give our thoughts, but there's nothing better than just sitting down, reviewing a game, and then looking at what is coming up. And
it's just fun.
It's definitely... it could be a new format, but 8 games a week could be a bit difficult to analyse.
Bit draining.
But unfortunately, in the NRL, there can only be one winner. And that's ultimately what we're leading to. And anyway, that...
And the one winner is the NRL point of difference. And that concludes this week's episode. And we hope you enjoy the finals footy this week, and we'll see you next week.